Hey, everybody, it's Scott Leckie from Democracy Tomorrow. Those of us who have flown on airplanes, which is a distinct minority of the human race, you can look it up, see what the precise number is, but I think it's around maybe 20%, maybe 30% maximum who have ever been on an airplane. I have read some people say it's only 5%, but at any rate, it's clearly the minority of the human race who has actually ever once been on an airplane. Some of us have flown somewhat ashamedly, I hate to say it, thousands of times. Doing human rights work around the world, it's kind of a necessity for many of us who have international lives. But very proudly, I've not sat on a plane for 2,150 days, 2,155 days, actually, not that I'm counting. And I'm very glad about that. And in recent months, we were contacted by someone who also feels the same about not flying for many reasons, but primarily for climate change reasons. And we are speaking to her tonight. Her name is Clémence de Bony from France, but she's currently in Antioquia, Colombia, in what looks to be the middle of the jungle. And she's available to speak to us tonight at the end of a very long solo journey that she took starting in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, going up the east coast of Brazil, and then traversing the entire length of the Amazon and other rivers to reach where she is now. And she's eventually going to end up in Panama working on climate displacement issues with the Guna Yala territory and the Guna Yala people. So, Clémence, welcome to Democracy Tomorrow. It's great to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Scott. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
It's absolutely great to have you here. So what gave you the idea about doing this trip across the entire Amazon by yourself by boat and
Yeah.
not deciding to fly?
Well, as you said it, like the main reason is for climate change because like it's an issue that I always felt concerned with as long as I can remember in my life, and mostly because I'm going here, as you said, in Panama to work with Guna indigenous people who are living mostly on an archipelago, which is now being flooded because of climate change, because of methane and CO2 emissions. So I figured out maybe it would be less hypocrite of me or more sensitive to try to emit as low emissions of CO2 as I can going there to try to help them. Like, it would make more sense, right? And so that's for the more environmental part. And then there is also like the personal aspect that I always travel in my life. I enjoy the adventure and traveling so much, and I think you can learn so much from it. You can meet so many people that would open your mind to new perspective, new ideas, and that's what happened in this trip. Like as you said, I crossed the Amazon, and I met people I would never have met in an airplane or in a airport, and they brought me some perspective that were completely new. Like, for example, new solution for the Guna peoples as new ways of living, new ways of seeing life, of perceiving climate change, or perceiving other international issues we might have nowadays. So I think more than just for trying to be respectful to the Guna people and this work I'm going to do, it was also a journey of like discovery, of trying to get others' perspective. And it was just amazing. I met so many great people this way, so many new ideas, and I came out a completely different person, like a better version of me, I hope.
How long did the whole trip take you?
So I'm still in it. I started from Buenos Aires the 10th of February, 2025. We are now the 22nd of May. So it's been 3 months and 12 days, and I should arrive in like a week or two. But as like explorers from the past could have maybe also experiments, you cannot really have like an end date that is so precise because like you don't really know. For example, I have no clue when I enter the Amazon how long it's going to take me because you don't know how long the boats are going to take. You don't know if the flow is going to allow you to go that fast, if the weather is going to allow you to go that fast. You don't know if you're going to have like a technical issue, which happened. I got blocked in Manaus for like 48 extra hours because the boat was not able to start. Or when I crossed the border between Peru and Ecuador by canoe, and the motor broke down 5 times, and we got blocked on the river for like an hour trying to figure it out. Um, so yeah, you cannot really like say with exactly when you're gonna arrive. Like now, my last challenge will be to find an embarkation from Cartagena to Carti, so the first port on the Caribbean side of Panama, to cross. And yeah, I have no clue how I'm gonna do it, but you know what? I'm gonna do it, and that's gonna be great. It's gonna be a new experience, and this trip, like, just brought me so much security with myself. Like it proved me I could do so many things on my own, and it also proved me how humans are capable of helping each other. Like I met so many interesting, great, helpful people that were just like trying to help, and they maybe didn't understand what I was doing or why, but they understand I was a human too, and we just had so much to bring to each other to share, and so many perspective, and I had so many great discussion, like speaking in Spanish and the person answering to me in Brazilian Portuguese, and somehow we understood each other, and somehow we had great laughter and great philosophical talks, and yeah, there is so much.
That's fantastic. And, it's particularly admirable that at the young age that you are, that you decided to not go the easy way by just hopping on a plane in Buenos Aires and flying to wherever, Lima, and then to Panama City, and then taking a bus to your ultimate destination. And a lot of people in the world would say, oh, you've denied yourself the sake of convenience. And what a hassle it must have been to travel all the way there by boat and bus and other vehicles that weren't airplanes, neglecting to remember, of course, that, reaching the ultimate journey destination is really all about the journey. And too often people, I think, have forgotten that in this day and age, and always go in the direction of convenience and sake of ease, which is probably what I would do at this stage in life anyways. But so what were some of the highlight moments that will stick with you forever, do you think, so far on your trip of, already over 100 days? What really sticks in your mind?
One of them was like the 6 days, 6 nights boat I did between Manaus and Laetitia, which is in Colombia, in the Amazonia in Colombia. And so I was on this boat with hammocks, right? You sleep on hammocks, and you're just driving through the Amazon for 6 days with these people you don't know. And in 6 days, you kind of develop like this great relationship, and everybody like get like a social role with each other, and you just like discover, first of all, people you would never have met otherwise. Like, for example, I met an indigenous woman here who was like going to visit her mom. Like, she moved to Manaus to work with her 2 daughters, and she was coming back, and I could exchange with her, ask her question like human to human, in a way that was not possible otherwise. At one moment, like a French woman would have like meet an indigenous Brazilian woman. By the way, she didn't consider herself Brazilian. She considered herself with the nationality of her ethnicity, which is also very interesting. Another perspective that I would never have understand or like visualize if not talking to her in the Amazonas. Like, there's so many people I met, like a Cuban migrant who is surviving. Basically, he was a miner in Suriname and French Guiana in illegal gold mining. And like, as someone that is so sensitive to the environment, like, of course, when you tell me illegal gold mining, I'm kind of getting anxious about it. But talking to this man also helped me understand the other side of the story. How, like, of course, I knew about the abuses, but putting a face on it is not the same. Like, how he was working 80 hours a day, 18 hours a day, sorry. How the mafia was just taking away 80% of his salary. How he was just trying to make his mom survive in Cuba, and how now he's blocked on some boat and is going to try to cross the Colombian rainforest from Leticia to Bogota, which is the region which is home to most of the narcos in Colombia. So dangerous. So that was another slap on the face, if you want to say, like, wake up to reality, another reality, but that is part of our world. I met also other travelers that had like so interesting stories to tell me. I met like some local families who would travel a month almost to go to visit their family from Brazil to Peru, for example. And that's just normal for a lot of people, as you say, to don't take the plane. And when they like plan that this trip, they know it's gonna go at least for 4 months, and that's how life is ruled there, and it's normal for them. So other manners are possible. And in French, we have this proverb saying like, what counts is not the destination but the journey, because the journey is what is the aprendizaje, as you say in Spanish. I'm missing the word in English now, of course, but like the learning,
The lesson, the lesson.
the lesson, exactly. Thanks. And yeah, that's the most important. So I think yeah, that's the moment that I will keep dearly in my memories.
So a lot of people would think it would be a very dangerous thing for a woman traveling alone to go across the entire Amazon. So what sort of lessons did you learn in that regard, and what sort of advice could you give other solo travelers, in particular women that are thinking of traveling alone?
Yeah, you cannot believe how many times I heard I'm gonna get kidnapped. Like by my friends, my family, whoever, like never have been to these regions, but I was like so sure that I'm gonna get kidnapped, that like everybody there is evil, or I don't know, or they're so dangerous compared to good old Europe. Which I mean, I feel so much more safe in so many cities in here in Latin America, in Colombia, in Brazil, than in my own city, Nantes, in France. So I think there's a lot of prejudices on this, and so advices that I would give to a woman, first of all, is don't listen, don't listen. Like, take in consideration, yes, there is danger. Yes, don't be stupid. Don't walk at night alone. Don't do things you wouldn't do in your own home time. But don't let yourself be driven by fear. Like, be curious, not scared. The world has so much more to offer that it has to take from you. And yes, of course, I was the only woman doing it alone. I mean, a lot of men solo travelers, women solo travelers in the Amazonas. No, I was the only one. But I mean, a lot of women wrote me, for example, to Instagram, because I was sharing like videos of my trip. I was sharing also how I was feeling. When I entered this first boat I took with hammock, I was terrified because so many people told me like, yeah, there's gonna be some drunk man bothering you. They're gonna be like, you don't know with whom you're gonna end up. And I was terrified. And I arrived in the boat, and it was basically kids and women. Of course, there were men too, but like a lot of kids, a lot of women, a lot of life that, yeah, was just positive, you know? And so be curious. Don't let others decide of your choices, of your travels, of like what you want to do in life. If this journey really taught me two things, I think it would be first resilience, because I had to write my thesis, prepare this internship we are going to do in Panama, organize the journey, also give some like language classes to make some money, like so many things at the same time, while traveling, while being in the Amazonas, while taking 43 hours buses, combining boats and buses. I'm about 450 hours of transportation so far. I think I'm gonna reach 500 by Panama. So yeah, resilience, but also that I'm capable of doing everything by my own. That like being a woman is not a limitation. That yes, it's gonna be harder because the world is what it is, men are what they are, and yeah, I got bothered, but I got bothered in my hometown too. So it's not like impossible. You can do it. You just need to believe in yourself and go for it.
And what about the financial question? I think a lot of people would be
Yeah.
basically too fearful to take the trip at all. And if they weren't fearful, they would think, I don't have enough money to travel that far for that long. How can I possibly do it? So, how did you do it? What are the tips that you can give to people in that regard? Because I think people, particularly from your generation, have a very unique way of making money compared to your parents or your grandparents, who were much more used to having a sedentary lifestyle, living in the same place, working for the same company for most of their career, setting aside money each month, so on and so forth, so that they could finally go on that one worldwide trip when they were 65 years old. And I think in, Gen Z, Gen I, whatever you want to call your generation, there's a lot more willingness to kind of live for the experience rather than living for the asset that you can buy down the road, or the security of the job you can get. So, is there anything that you learned in that regard that you can share with others that might be concerned that they wouldn't be able to travel because it would simply be too expensive?
First of all, calculate your budget in advance. In my case, my budget was about $30 a day, everything included: transportation, food, activities, place to stay. And so when you know that, you basically know how far you can go, what you can afford or not, like if there is like a restaurant you want to do or like a special activity because some people you met want to do it or something. To calculate this, I'm using a travel spend app. I think I'm not able to say the name, but like it's a travel spend app. If you put it on like Google Play, you're gonna find it. There are a lot, and so you can calculate like each time you have an expense, you just put it on, and it gives you like your average per day, and also what you spend is if you spend more on food or in accommodation or in whatever, and so you can kind of mitigate it behind after. Then there is this amazing app that's called Couchsurfing, which basically allow you to meet local people, either to just take a walk for them to show you their place, or mostly for you to sleep for free at their place. And so it's not like economic financial transaction, it's a human cultural transaction. You're expected to spend time with these persons and share about your culture. For example, I used to go around with like some postcard from France and like write some words and like give them to the people for them to know where I live. Like I used to cook some meals from like trying to cook something French for them, show pictures, tell about my trip, give advices. Like it's a cultural exchange, it's a human exchange. And you cannot imagine how many amazing people I met this way. Like right now, I'm in a village in a finca, which is basically like a farm or countryside house in Colombia, in Antioquia. And this is a finca of a guy I met from couchsurfing 2 years ago. And now I'm like meeting him again, him and his mom. And I'm so happy to see them again and share with them a couple of days. It's amazing. And so, yes, of course, you save money, but mostly you make your trip unique because you're not falling on a tourist trap. You're not like just there to do tourism. You're here to travel, to share, to learn. And this make the whole difference. What else? I'm giving language classes online, which allow me to work whenever I want, to organize myself however I want. And my students are very flexible because they're basically my age. And so they understand what I'm doing. For example, right now I didn't give class for a month because I was in the Amazonas, and I didn't lie. I told them, hey, look, I'm gonna travel through the Amazonas. I'm not gonna have Wi-Fi. Sorry. Like, and they accepted it. There was no problem.
So if you add it all up, I mean, it's less than $1,000 for an entire month of travel, everything all included,
Yeah, so
accommodation and
far,
food and transport and trinkets you might want to buy, whatever, anything else, going to a bar, all in less than 1,000 US dollars a month, which is pretty amazing. That's a lot less than a lot of people would think, you know?
yes,
So
definitely.
you sorted out the fear issue and the, encouragement to yourself and to others that you're going to make it all the way across Latin America, and you sorted out the financial issue, and you're on your way now to work with an indigenous group in Panama who is threatened intensely by the effects of climate change. It's a group that we have worked with also with another NGO of mine, Displacement Solutions. So we're very familiar with the situation there. What are you planning to do when you're there, and how long will you stay there, and what are you expecting?
I'm gonna stay 6 months. So long story short, I met the Gunas 2 years ago doing a workaway, which is another traveling app which allows you to work for someone, a project. It could be a school, it could be a hostel, it could be a farm, it could be whatever. You work a couple of hours for them, and basically you can stay for free. They give you food, enough to live. So I met this guy, Evin, who is a Guna, who has his own island and was just like coming back to Gunayala, their autonomous territory, with the dream of creating a restaurant here. And so he wanted to transform his wild island into a less wild island so he could place a restaurant here, like on the water, on the shore. And I was here working for him for 2 weeks. And he told me about their history, their story, how they fought against colonization, how the revolution in 1925 to get the independence from Panama, how they resisted all along, and they managed to get this great independence, to get like hand on their territory, which is very rare for indigenous people because like most of them are still very neglected by both national and international communities. And so I got fascinated by them basically. And then I heard about all this environmental issue they had, that it be the plastic shoring on the islands every day, that it be the raise of the water mostly. You have 40 communities living on islands in Kunayala, and Mi Ambiente, which is the environmental ministry of Panama, as well as so many NGOs like yours, show that like in a couple of decades, the islands are going to disappear because it's not rocky island, it's sandy islands. And so it can go very fast. So far, I heard the government of Panama helped to displace one community, and it took 15 years. So now, if you do the calculation, you have 39 communities left, which probably are going to have troubles, and you have about 30 years, maybe, luckily. So that's not matching. There is a big problem here. So we need to understand like how can we find solution either by adaptation in the islands or displacement. That would be way more respectful, first of all, of Guna's culture, way of living, livelihood, because the first one was not. It was mostly neglected by the government of Panama. So how could they adapt to climate change without losing it all, basically? That is the topic of my thesis. I'm going to work on like this displacement and like what went wrong, what could be bettered, in what way the cooperation between like the local community of this island called Garde Subdug and the government of Panama failed or stopped, and why. And because I didn't want to go there and just like play the scientist, if you want, like take notes on paper and then extract information and leave without the local people understanding why I'm here really, or like what's the use of it, I decided to do an internship. So with a local NGO that was created by the Gunas, that is controlled by the Gunas, that they do like social projects and like development projects that are decided by the communities, like in a democratic form, to give them back something, not just extract, but that it be like an exchange.
And how long are you planning to be there to
Oh
work
yeah.
with the Guna?
So the internship is 6 months. So I'm going to be there at least until the end of the year, or probably December. But if we are in the middle of a project and that my presence is required for the good functionment of the project, I'm not going to leave and leave the stuff half done. So I really don't know. And also this travel, like in this way of travel, change your perspective, your mindset on time. The modern society always tells you like you have to be fast, you have to produce, you have to like give all the time. And sometimes it doesn't work like this. Sometimes you need slow adaptation. Sometimes you need to take the time to talk, to take the time to organize. And so if the project takes longer than expected, well, it's going to take longer than expected. And there, I have no boss above me asking me for rentability. So I'm fine. I'm just going to stay as long as I need.
You will have your work cut out for you there, of course. What about your thoughts on the question of being a world citizen? Did you learn anything on your trip that made you more or less of a world citizen than when you started? And what does it mean to you to be a world citizen?
This trip, more than anything, confirmed some ideas I already had. But when I think about it, like on my personal experience, I spent half of my life abroad. I grew up in Scandinavia. I lived since I'm 20 years old outside of France. And so I have friends from every continent, like not every country, maybe in the near future, I hope. But there is so much we have in common, more than we have to oppose to each other. Like we all human, we all want to thrive, like we all want to be happy, we all want to live in a safe place, we all want our basic need to be met, we all want people around us, our communities, our families, our friends to be happy. And so many different realities that I saw in this trip didn't alter this true reality, which comes to just the backbone of human being. Basically, it confirmed a lot of thoughts I already had. It also showed me like how you can think things differently. Like as I said, with fear and curiosity, a world where we would all share the same nationality, we all would all share like the same goal, basically would make us more curious than scared of each other, I hope. Also a world of more solutions. There's so many like problems I saw in one place and solution that could solve this very same problem in another. And so I think we would benefit so much from sharing knowledge. For example, with the Kunas, like I was crossing the Amazon River and seeing all these people surviving there on the shore of the biggest like river in the world. The tide is so different. And like I saw how people would adapt to this. They had like floating houses, for example, and they would just live in on the river half of the year, and that was fine. And that would be a solution for the Gunas, maybe a possible solution. There's so many great projects like this. I think we live in a world that has a chance to have all the solutions we need, that they be technologically, social, political. We just have to apply them. We need like this cooperation, this link, and we just need people to connect. The best way of doing it would be just to share the common interests, to like go beyond our regional, national borders and like venture out. And also like just this common interest of not thinking about a nation, not seeing the state-centric approach of having national interests, but like having human interest. We all want a world that is healthy, that is more fair, that is more equal, that has more possibilities, more advantages for the majority, more opportunities. And so not a world in what we're going right now of like private property, private intellectual property, which is like the worst in my opinion, and of separation, of fear of each other, of like creating bunkers because the world is going to an end, but a world of sharing, of common solution, of diversity, of inclusion, including populations such as indigenous people, which don't find their place in the international community right now because the states have been neglecting them completely. States, by essence, don't include them in the consensus, in the cooperation, the global cooperation. And so going beyond the state centrism would help us like include everybody, not just national citizens. I just wanted to finish on a Frenchy note on this question because you asked me it yesterday, so I had the time to think a bit about it. So you for sure know Victor Hugo, who was a great thinker, French thinker from the 19th century, and he said, "A day will come when all nations on our continent will form a European brotherhood. A day will come when we all share and see the United States of America and the United States of Europe face to face, reaching out for each other across the seas." He was talking of the European Union, maybe 70, 80 years before it happened. Back then, people must have think he's crazy. Like, how could Germany, France, and the UK be in the same team after thousands of years of war? How? Well, it happened. So why not?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. What do you think is the thing that stops us from unifying more than anything else? Is there anything that sticks in your mind? Like if we only could change that way of thinking or that perspective, we could all come much closer to one another. You have any thoughts on that?
I think fear. Fear rules our lives in so many ways because of the media we are fed with, but also because of our instincts. I think our biological instincts didn't change that much since we were hunter-gatherer in the wild, and so the unknown could be terrifying at this time because it can kill you. I think we need to conscientize this, to keep it in mind that like our fear in this very planned, very organized world are not that rational anymore. Because, yes, maybe this is the unknown for you, but it's not dangerous. It's just because you don't know it yet. Be curious about it. I think like the biggest change we can do is switching from being scared of each other to being curious of each other. Like, what can I learn from you? We can learn from everybody, each person in my way that I met, that they be indigenous, that Brazilian, Uruguayan, Peruvian, Colombian, like they all told me something or brought me a perspective that I haven't thought about it, a different way of seeing things, a different problem, or maybe a different solution. And if I was scared of them, that would not happen. Like we need to go out of our comfort zone. We need to venture out. We need to just give it a chance. And once this wall is broken, it's not going to be built again.
Who knows how many, self-identified world citizens I have met over the years, but the number is many, many, many thousands, probably even bigger than that. And that is one of the perspectives that I think every single one of them shares. It's like once you have the experience, the direct personal experience of seeing the entire human race as one entity, as one family, as comprised of 8 billion equals, you can't really go backwards from that. I mean, it's once you've reached that way of seeing the world as essentially unified already, it's just that we don't realize it, or the people that are in power don't realize it, or the citizens that they oppress don't realize it. once you have that awareness, you can't go backwards. I mean, you can't suddenly embrace the entire world and then go, well, country X is really bad, but country Y is really good. And the people in country Z are really bad. You can't do that. And so it's really, in a way, the entire thing can be boiled down to it's not a question of us versus them, right? It's a question of us, always. It's so hard for people. Of course, the nation state system kind of discourages it because it's always us versus them. But it's that fear of losing what you have, and not just physically, like your money or your house or your land, which is so often the case in so many countries throughout history. People lose things because other people want them more than you're able to defend yourself. But it's more even losing the identity that you're so used to that you never even think twice about it. Of course I am Egyptian. That is all I am. I was born Egyptian. I see the world through Egyptian eyes, and I'm not, therefore, everything else. Our quest, I think, is to get people to transcend, basically, their nationalities, to of course, keep them and accept them, but also go just that little step further that says, you know what, if I flew 5 hours in any direction and I landed and I met people for the first time, in fact, they would all basically be the same as me. They're going to live somewhere. They're going to need transport from place A to place B. They're going to be hungry if they don't eat for 10 hours. The list of similarities, we completely forget about them. And I think that's, part of our quest too, is to get out there the idea that going and looking around and meeting people from places, familiarity always improves your worldview. It's that fear of the unknown that stops people from doing it. They might just have different practices and different religions and eat different food, but at the end of the day, everybody basically wants the same thing. And finding our way forwards to do that in a peaceful way, in a way that takes advantage of the systems that we've built over thousands of years, but recognizes their limitations and pushes us to the next phase of our human evolution in terms of how we organize ourselves, has to be the priority. There's far too many things going wrong right now. And if you look at the things going wrong, you can very easily identify exactly what we've just been talking about. Why are people fighting wars still? Why are people trying to steal other people's land still? Why is there so much inequality and so much poverty and so much discrimination? It all really stems from that idea that I am somehow better than you, or we are somehow better than them, or we are us and you are them. And I think it's when you transcend those things, it's much more hard to envisage a world that is not the world that Victor Hugo envisaged, where he said those things. And there's so many people throughout history who have tried to put that out there that, hey guys, we really need to, have the same citizenship. We really need to unify more. And if we did, just imagine the prosperity. And as I always say, just imagine the parties. Parties would be so much better and so much more extensive, And so anyway, do you have any last words for us today? I hope we'll be able to speak to you again when you're up in Panama and get real insights into the climate displacement struggles that the people are facing there. And who knows, maybe in other locations around the world too, if you keep working in the field of climate displacement, which I hope you will. So any final words for today, Clémence?
I think what's the most important is, as you said, go beyond your fears and never stop learning every day from someone, from something, from a place, from a history. Never stop learning. There is so much to get from this beautiful world. There is so much we can share. And if you keep this as a philosophy, I think we can do great things.
We want to thank you again, Clémence, for speaking to us today, all the way from Antioquia in Colombia. And hopefully we'll see you next time in Panama. So everybody watching, please subscribe to Democracy Tomorrow. Please give comments. We love all your comments. We try to reply to as many as we can. And we look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Democracy Tomorrow. Thanks for watching.